Good day, guys, my name is Lord Tomo and welcome to my opinion on the Sonic the Hedgehog movie teaser poster. This is probably going to be one of the more controversial videos that I make simply because it doesn't necessarily side with the common view on certain things. Now, of course, if you just come onto this channel, this is your first time watching this channel, I'm obviously a Sonic fan, but I'm going to argue my points in a non-Sonic-esque fan kind of way. What that basically means, I'm going to try and provide with some level of evidence, with some level of reasoning and understanding on why I have my opinions the way I do. Now, as you can imagine, the poster has garnered a lot of controversy, mostly negative, as you can imagine. And I'm part of, obviously, the Sonic the Hedgehog community in that I follow a lot of YouTubers, Instagrammers, etc., etc., follow the news. And the general consensus is that the new Sonic-esque image isn't what people have expected. If anything, a lot of people say it sucks. Now, if you want my opinion on what I think about it within the next 10 seconds, I don't necessarily want to watch the video. Then my opinion on it is I'm not actually on the negative side. I'm actually still on the positive side. Now, of course, I will provide my take on it, of course. But the more or less reason is I still have hope and I still have ambitions and I still have more or less optimism for this, I guess, movie that's going to come out. Now, that's my current opinion. If you want to leave negative comments, by all means, go ahead. If you want to tell me that I'm not a true Sonic fan, by all means, go ahead. But I have my reasons. I will explain as I would go on. Of course, you know, it is what it is. Different people have different opinions. But generally speaking, what's the wording for it? Generally speaking, the general consensus of this poster or movie is that it sucks. I'm on the side that it's not, and for reasons, of course. So I'm not going to completely say it's, you know, completely bad. But of course, let's more or less get into it and more or less start off by actually looking at the teaser poster. Now, this is on the official IGN website, and this is obviously on their Instagram as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at it and then, you know, let our emotions go wild for the couple of seconds that it runs. And then I'm going to go through my list and explain the ins and outs and all the fun stuff. So without further ado, let's look at it and let's get a vibe for those people who haven't seen this yet. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the official Sonic the Hedgehog poster. As you're going to see, there is his stiletto and there is his sneakers, and that's how he more or less looks. This has garnered so much hate in every social media platform that I've yet to see, but I'm going to argue that this isn't bad for the reasons that a lot of people may or may not necessarily think upon, to say the least. First and foremost, if I look down, it's because I have a couple of notes that I have written down here, and I'm going to discuss them, of course. So if I look down, that's the reason. The reason I make these videos the way they are, because it's actually true to what my opinions are, opposed to jump cutting everything, not really being as concise as all. I've always been the sort of guy that if I have an opinion or I have a thought on anything, it's just me talking in one hit, opposed to just, you know, writing it down, all that sort of stuff. But anyway, without further ado, reason number one. Why did they make it real life / 3D opposed to a full animation? So why didn't they just make it a full 3D animation, or why didn't they make it a full 2D animation true to the original Sonic the Hedgehog, such as, for those who don't know, the Sonic OVA movie, right? Which is a valid reasoning. Why wouldn't they? You know, it doesn't make sense why you would have a hybrid and why we have such a weird looking character as this. Well, simply because when it comes to making movies and all that sort of stuff, they have to hit a market, right? They're in it to make money. So they're not in it to necessarily cater to the small, minute fan base. You know, I'm sure there are some production companies that do that. But generally speaking, when they make a movie, that they make it to make a profit. It's business 101, right? Whether or not you agree with it, it's what it is. It's the nature of the beast, to say the least. Now, they have made 3D or 2D full animation movies of certain intellectual properties. I'm going to show you examples, and I'm going to show you examples why it doesn't succeed as much as a person would like to think it should succeed. For example, why wouldn't they make Sonic a full 3D movie, or why wouldn't they make it a full 2D animation? Simple answer to that, doesn't make money. And any money that does make, it's next to nothing, and it's just pointless from a business point of view. Now, you'll probably argue, there's enough fan base for it. There's enough people that would watch it. Of course it would make money. No. I'll give you an example. So, as you can see from here, this is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Now, as you're aware, they have made several movies throughout the decades. And this is the best. I'm going to show you two examples, but this is the prime example, right? This is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles full 3D, or in this case, computer animated martial arts superhero comedy film. So it's a full 3D Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movies. I actually watched it. I actually enjoyed it for what it was. I actually watched this in cinemas. I absolutely loved it. But in my cinema, I knew that not a lot of people were watching it, simply because it was designed specifically for kids. And you would argue, well, of course, it's a kids show. Why wouldn't you want it for kids? But let's be honest with ourselves here. Even if it's designed for kids, at the end of the day, who takes the kids to watch the cinemas? Parents, right? So if the parents don't have any mild interest of watching this, of course they're not going to take their kids to watch a children's book. I'm sure there are parents that would, but generally speaking, when you're making a movie, you're throwing a wide net. Similar to why movies don't make R18 movies, because it doesn't make as much money as a movie that's, for example, PG or M for mature. It's a business 101, right? So back to this example, right? This is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and it's a full 3D computer-generated movie. It is true to the source materials, as you can generally see from the actual promotional or theatrical release poster. Some phenomenal. Let's look at the profit margin. Its budget was $38 million, and its box office was $95 million, $95.6 million. Yes, it has made profit. Definitely that's the case. But this does not account for marketing and all that sort of stuff. And of course, this does not account for the toys and merchandising that it comes up for. But generally speaking, from a marketing point of view of making a full 3D generated movie, being Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which is a known IP, it didn't make as much money as you would think. Of course, your argument is, well, how would you know? Well, it doesn't make sense. They still made money. The comparison is, why make it from a fully animation to a hybrid vision? Example number 2. This is a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3D to live action hybrid movie. This had a lot of controversy. The same more or less controversy that's currently happening now with the Sonic Solero. This, a lot of people just absolutely hated. They say it was crap. It was absolutely abysmal. It was nothing like, pardon me, it was nothing like the original source material, which arguably, yeah, it would make sense, but they made it realistic. If anybody watched the movie, they made it realistic, and it's a hybrid, so you have humans with 3D animation characters, etc., etc. So how much did this cost to make, and how much did it basically make in profit? Let's have a look. Budget $125 million. Its box office $493 million. Not including the cost for promotion, not including for merchandising, which either increased or decreased. It's most always increased. So this made way more than a full 3D animation Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which is, as you can see from the source material, based on the source material is more based on the comic than anything else, opposed to the newer one. And if you look at the newer one, it didn't make as much as the original, but it made more profit than the original 3D animation. So that's example number 1, right? A lot of people had slack on this movie. They said the turtles didn't look like the original turtles, etc. More or less what Sonic is going through right now. It's saying it's crap, it's this and that, and this make money. Why does this make money opposed to the original? For one simple fact, when production companies more or less make movies, they throw a wide net. They don't just want to cater to the hardcore fans. Let's be realistic. The hardcore fans are always going to be hardcore for the majority. There's going to be a few sidesteppers, but generally speaking, the hardcore fans are generally hardcore. Makes perfect sense, right? It is what it is. But unfortunately, that does not generate sufficient amount of money to make a one-for-one exactly what the fan base is. The market dictates that, right? So what do? They want to pander to the majority, to the casuals. Let's be honest. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie, the one that's the hybrid, the one that everybody said it was crap, it was everything. They wanted to pander to the casuals, the ones that knew about the Turtles, but not enough to really invest themselves or care that it doesn't look one-for-one like the original comic or the animation. That's the nature of the beast. The numbers don't lie. The numbers speak for themselves. That is the nature of the beast. Let's use another example, right? The example that I used was full computer animated martial arts Let's talk about Transformers, right? Transformers, very big. Everybody knows Transformers. You can't go wrong with Transformers. Transformers is the pinnacle of pop culture, one of the many, many pillars of pop culture. Let's look at the original, the Transformers, the movie. That's a theatrical release poster, and for those who don't know, that was full isometric, but generally, for the majority, it was full 2D animation movies. This was back in the time where we didn't have privacy, we didn't have internet, we didn't have, I mean, we did have, no, we didn't have internet back then. It was basically, I'm pretty sure internet came in 1993. This movie came out in a while back. You know what, don't quote me on that. Oh, right, 1986, the animated science fiction, yeah. Based on the, yeah. So this was in 1986. This was actually when I was born. So this was basically when we didn't have internet, we didn't have Netflix, and this was literally one-for-one better version of the actual animation themselves, right? You cannot go wrong. This was the pinnacle of pop culture. This is where the fandom would have been at the peak of the craziness, of the enjoyment, and just the absolute, you know, enjoyment of Transformers. You can't go wrong. So let's look at the market. Let's look at the market. Let's look at the money and see how much it was cost to make, and let's see how much profit they made. Look at the numbers. Our budget here is 6 million, and of course the box office is 5.8 million US. Mind you, we're not accounting for marketing. Mind you, we're not accounting for merchandising. I'm sure the merchandising would have released, you know, a crazy amount of toys and all that. That would have bumped up the price. I'm sure it would have made money in that aspect, but generally speaking, the numbers don't lie. You know, that movie technically was unsuccessful in the box office market. We're not talking about the merchandising, let's put that aside for now, but from a core marketing movie point of view, Transformers, the 2D animation movie, did not generate money. What does it say? Is it a shit movie? I don't know. I've never personally watched it. I'm not a big fan of Transformers, nothing against it, just not my forte. Sonic is my forte. That and Power Rangers. Power Rangers we'll talk about another time. But it didn't make money, right? Which is fair enough, because the market then, parents back then, for those who didn't grow up with Transformers, didn't care enough for Transformers, wouldn't have taken their kids to watch Transformers, because generally speaking, parents take their kids to whatever they necessarily want to watch as a priority, and what the kids want to watch as a secondary. Not always the case, but the majority of the case is. This movie was designed specifically, if anything, for the hardcore fans, not necessarily the hardcore, for the casuals. This is where it lost its money. Now let's look at the most infamous Transformers movie. Transformers, the Michael Bay movie, the one that everybody and their mother basically said it was the most shittest thing on the face of the earth. Part of the, you know, profanities, but that's what people said. Optimus Prime looks bad, Bumblebee, etc., etc. I watched this movie. It is what it is. It was just your standard action-based robotic movie. I enjoyed it for what it was, but everybody, including the most hardcore of hardcore fans, basically said it was the crappiest thing on the face of the earth. And these are the hardcore fans. Let's look at the money. It's all about the money, ladies and gentlemen. Its budget was 150 million. Look how much it made in the box office. 709 million. Not counting for budgeting and not counting for merchandising, which would have ranked in more money. Of course, marketing would have reduced the price. But the movie itself, he made a killing in the box office. The monies don't lie. This is it. And every other movie, he fluctuated and increased, but he was constantly making money. And every movie, people were saying he's the crappiest thing alive. Why do these movies make money whereby the actual original source materials don't? One simple fact. These movies are designed for the casual moviegoers, not for the hardcore fans. Let's be 100% honest here. We're not here to beat around the bush. And it is what it is. And that's the reality of the situation. And as much as people want to argue that they should make a full 3D animation, that they should make a 3D movie or computer generated movie or 2D animation movie, the numbers don't lie. Of course, there is the argument that people basically make, well, what about back in the Disney era when they were making Aladdin, they were making Lion King? Well, those movies were a bit different. They weren't the source materials. Those movies were pandered for necessarily the casuals. They didn't necessarily have a source material, unlike Transformers, which had the cartoon animation, which generally speaking, when a parent saw their kids watching it, they saw, oh, it's a kid's show, therefore it's a kid's movie. With Lion King, Aladdin, and all that sort of stuff, they weren't necessarily in the beginning an animation. They were a single movie, to say the least. And even if we're going to argue right now, well, Aladdin is still popular, Toy Story is still popular, etc., etc., what are they doing with these movies nowadays? They're making them all 3D. The current market right now for the movie demographic, unfortunately, is 3D. You know, we can thank Marvel Studios for that. We can thank Pixels for that. The 3D. This is it. This is the generation we live in right now. To make money, you gotta pander to the mass markets, and you gotta throw a wide net. Unfortunately, the case is it's hybrid movies. Transformers is a perfect example. So that's why they made the movie a hybrid version. Basically, they want to throw a wide net. To put it black and white, all my mumbling. They made it. The reason why they made a live action / 3D opposed to a full 2D animation or 3D animation is to basically mass market to the masses, the casual fans, and of course pay homage to some degree to the casual hardcore fans. But the money is the casual viewing base, not the hardcore base. That's the nature of the base. That is why they've made it a live action / 3D movie. Now, the next aspect, it says why does it look more? Why does the Sonic the Hedgehog look realistic? Why does he look like this? Why does he look so weird looking, right? Why does he not look like the classic Sonic the Hedgehog or the modern Sonic the Hedgehog? This stems from two reasons. Reason number one, which more or less falls back to my original point, you want to market to the casual base, not necessarily to the hardcore base. But reason number two, whether or not they consciously or subconsciously thought this up, it doesn't necessarily fall into line with the original core material and mythos of the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise, or the thinking behind Sonic the Hedgehog. I'm going to explain this so you guys can understand what I mean necessarily about what that means. Basically, for those who followed Sonic the Hedgehog, the games, right, and even the comics, but we'll talk about predominantly the games, right? For those people who predominantly looked at the actual game, you know there was Sonic the Hedgehog and you had Dr. Eggman or Dr. Robotnik. I'm going to call him Dr. Robotnik for the sake of discussion, but his name's Dr. Eggman. But anyway, that's besides the point. So Dr. Robotnik, so you knew Sonic lived in a world, an Earth world, where he had humans. For example, Dr. Eggman, Dr. Robotnik. So it stands to reason, in its own universe, Sonic coincides or co-lived with other humans. At the time, it was just Dr. Robotnik. As the games progressed, we realized there were more humans living in various pockets within the Earth. As you can see in Sonic Unleashed, as you can see in Sonic Adventure 1, Sonic Adventure 2, and various other games throughout the thing. So you knew, and even in the comics, and also in animation, Sonic X, etc., you knew humans existed in the same universe as Sonic the Hedgehog. However, the key difference is, in those universes, those characters pretty much coincide with Sonic in the same animatic style. For example, the humans looked like cartoons, just like Sonic looked like cartoons. The 3D Sonic in the games looked like the 3D Sonic in the actual game. So basically, from an artistic point of view, from a cinematic point of view, it was consistent. It made sense. It looked real within its own universe, within the contents of its own universe, right? Now, what that basically means is it was consistent, right? So let's basically use this as an example, right? Let's see. Okay, so as you can see, these are various pictures of Sonic the Hedgehogs, both 3D and 2D. Would this Sonic the Hedgehog look well in a real life setting? Even though we've established the reason why they did a hybrid version of the movie, would this Sonic actually look believable in the same universe as that of Sonic the Hedgehog in the real life universe, right? Would that work? Some people putting on the glasses would argue yes, it would. That's how he looks. That's how he should look like. To me, I would argue no. That would not look like, it would not look properly. It would literally look like a cartoon character into the real world. It would not look like an actual, it would not even look like, in my opinion anyway, this hedgehog would not look like it actually exists in the real world. It would just look like a cartoon coming into the real world. It doesn't coexist, it doesn't live in the same universe, it's just a weird random creature, to say the least. Now, of course, you if you look at this, for example, this, as much as for better or worse, people would want to argue, this actually would look believable in the real world. That's why they needed to update his design to fit, even though it does look weird. I would agree with you that, but this would look more proportionate in the real world than, say, for example, this or this. But let's do 3D Sonic, because that's ideally that's what it would have to be. So this would not look good in the real world. This would not look good. Would I want it? Absolutely. You know, but let's be realistic here, right? This wouldn't look real. You would think it's a cartoon character going into some different universe, and it will look completely weird, completely foreign, completely standoffish in its own world. Do I want this? Not necessarily, but this makes more sense. It's all about making sense, right? Now, of course, the argument is, well, it's a hedgehog that runs at, you know, the speed of sound. Nothing makes sense. Yeah, true, nothing makes sense, but understandably, this won't bring in the casual fan base. This will. As weird as they may sound, as weird as they may look, this will bring in the fan base, and this necessarily won't bring in the casual fan base. Let's be 100% honest here. It is what it is. It's not something I necessarily 100% agree with, but it does make sense. Now, there are some design, I wouldn't say issues, the design concerns that I might have. I want to know how his face looks and various other things, but I will more or less talk about that later in this video as to why. So bottom line is, the reason why they had to update his design is so within the contents of the universe, it is more believable than, say, its predecessor, which is the original classic or modern 3D Sonic the Hedgehog. This is more believable than this in an idealistic world. Do you guys want to agree with that or not? That's completely up to you. I'm not here to argue against that, but to the casual fan base, this is more believable than this. Unfortunately, that is the reality of the situation. And of course, if you want to make money, you need to throw a wide net, and of course, it's the nature of the beast. I know there's a lot of a lot of what ifs and a lot of, you know, catering to the casuals, but that's the movie industry. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, even the original Sonic the Hedgehog movie, which is technically an OVA, which was a 2-part OVA, that didn't even sell well enough. So, I mean, the numbers don't lie. You know, it's the nature of the beast. It's the magic of the beast. And, of course, it is what it is. The next point we have, okay, some people have argued that it does not look close to the source material. That this, unfortunately, character, that this Sonic the Hedgehog does not look anything like the source material. It is not Sonic the Hedgehog. His shoes are wrong. He has no gloves. His face looks weird. His proportions are off, etc., 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 etc. So, and here's another prime example of people basically just, this is just some random one on Instagram. Look at his legs. He looks like a human. Those things are weird. You can see his sneakers. His sneakers aren't the original. Just because there's a ring, it just doesn't look like the original source material. And I'll show you some examples, properly examples. Okay, so people are saying that this doesn't look like the source material. He just looks completely off. Here's an example where his legs look more human and his shoes look completely off, etc., etc., etc. So I would argue that yes, it does look like the source material. More so that you wish to believe. Now, let's do a social experiment, right? Let's be 100% honest with ourselves here, right? Let's just be 100% honest here. If you love it, put that aside. If you hate it with all your heart, put that aside. Let's just do a social experiment, right? If this is indeed basically not original to the source material, it would not be recognizable in a conceivable sense. If you were to watch the same trailer, right, the same exact trailer, but without the text on top, without it saying from the producers of the Fast and the Furious, get rid of that, and you got rid of the bottom text where it says a whole new speed of hero, Sonic the Hedgehog, the day. If you didn't have no text and all you had was the interactive poster, would you not say, and be honest with yourself, would you not say that looks like Sonic the Hedgehog, or even that is Sonic the Hedgehog? There's rings. He's got sneakers. He looks like a hedgehog. That's Sonic the Hedgehog. Or at least that looks like Sonic the Hedgehog. You would. Let's be honest here. You would. If you want to argue differently, just to be a smartass, that's on you. But generally speaking, I would argue that at least 90% of you guys would say, yes, that's Sonic the Hedgehog. Even if you had no text or you know nothing about Sonic the Hedgehog and you saw that with no text, you would. Let's be honest, yeah? Now that we established that, generally speaking, when you're dealing with source material, you want to encapsulate the essence of what you're more or less adapting or modifying or enhancing, right? That's generally speaking from a creative point of view, what obtaining true to the source material. And whether you want to agree with this or not, for the most part, it does encapsulate the source material. We don't know how he moves, we don't know how he speaks, which is, yet to really discuss that. It may not be original, I don't know. But from an argument point of view, yeah, it does capture the source material. Is it something you wanted one for one, Sonic? No. But he resembles Sonic the Hedgehog. He looks like a hedgehog. He looks like he's fast. You know he's fast. He doesn't have gloves. We don't know what the story is. He might get gloves down the tracks. This might be, a different version of Sonic. Remember the whole Sonic Boom debacle where people complained about his arms being blue? And it's like, it's not the original Sonic. It's not the original source material. Might not be one for one, the original Sonic the Hedgehog. Then again, modern Sonic isn't one for one for the original Sonic the Hedgehog. His eyes were different. He was taller, slinkier. I mean, let's be honest here. How far are we going to go with this? If it's not the original Sonic the Hedgehog, anything after that is technically not original to the source material. But it is. Keeping it to the source material is essentially just making it making it as close to the original as possible so it is still recognizable. And that is what Sonic the Hedgehog is. Do you agree with it? I don't know. Is it something I agree with it? If I can be honest with you, this image is growing on to me more and more every day. Do you guys specifically enjoy it? No. But to argue that it's not part of the source material, even though it's still recognizable, even if you had no text, is being disingenuous. You're not being honest to yourself. It is what it is. And yeah. The next point I want to discuss is my hopes for the story. What do I want the story to be? Generally speaking, we know what the core concept of the story is. Sonic the Hedgehog joins up with the cop, and he's basically off to rescue, I don't know, animals, humans, whatever the case may be. So that's generally the gist of it. We don't know what Dr. Eggman's intention is. Generally speaking, Dr. Eggman's or Dr. Robotnik, I keep swapping. I like to say Dr. Eggman. Generally speaking, Dr. Eggman's intention is to systematically conquer the world, but pretty much roboticizes all the animal creatures to make an army, etc., etc. So generally speaking, depending on which game or comic, whatever, but he generally wants to conquer the world, right? So that is generally the gist. Of course, I'm sure there's going to be more to it, but that's generally the gist of the actual story. Now, if it's something on the same vein where Sonic is at heads with Robotnik, Robotnik, I think the story would be fantastic, phenomenal, superb. The only major concern that I have story-wise, and this, in my opinion, would debunk all my previous points of this actual video. It would, to be honest. If they made Sonic into, for example, a hedgehog that comes into the real world, like say he's from a different dimension. If he comes from a different dimension, comes into the real world to stop Dr. Robotnik, that would debunk my whole reasoning as to why they wouldn't have stuck with the classic Sonic the Hedgehog. Because if he comes from a different universe, there would be no need to change his figure shape in any conceivable way, and that would just basically ruin the whole illusion for me. My take on it, he actually lives in this world, and he's basically put up to the test to take down Dr. Robotnik because one of his friends gets captured. That's my take on it. If that's the case, that would explain, why he's basically joining up with the cops to take him down. My concerns with the movie, it's yet to be revealed, but I have a couple of concerns that I want them to address eventually down the track, which would either get me super hyped or just completely destroy my mood of this movie, is if they're making me to a mutant hedgehog. For example, I hope to God they don't do it, but my major concern is if Dr. Eggman was experimenting on a normal sized hedgehog and that mutated into what we see now, a Sonic the Hedgehog, the humanoid hedgehog that runs really fast. If he becomes a mutant hedgehog, I don't know. I'll have to really sit here and really think about it. But it would truly be disappointing for me as a fan, because at no point has Sonic ever been a mutant in any conceivable way. Um, yeah, I would hope that Sonic has always lived there and just grew up, and only out of circumstance he's now fighting against Dr. Robotnik. But if he was a byproduct of a mutation or an experimentation by Dr. Robotnik in a lab and he became the way he is, as you can see in the pictures, they'll be disappointed. I'll be really, really, really disappointed. This is the one that my brother brought up, which I found pretty funny. If the reason that Sonic, as you can see here, is the way he is because he was a mutated kid. So he was a normal kid that basically became a hedgehog. I don't think that's going to be the case, but maybe that's a legitimate concern. Who knows? To say the least. My next concern is based on his actual character, just his character himself. What that basically means is what they're going to do. Now, I've already argued why I don't necessarily have an issue with the way he looks now, simply because within the context of the universe, it makes sense why he had to look the way he did, more realistic, because if he had a cartoon in Sonic, it wouldn't actually blend well with the actual universe. As much as you agree or disagree with it, it wouldn't. The reason why the cartoon Sonic looked good as a cartoon is because the humans look cartoon. The reason why 3D Sonic looked good is because it was next to 3D humans. And the reason why Sonic had to be more realistic in the real life world is because he had to coincide with humans. So, I mean, by coincide, I mean realistic Sonic has to look good next to realistic humans. It's one of one. There is the argument there where there was Sonic 06 where you had real life humans. So that worked out perfectly well. Well, even, let's be honest, even then he looked a bit weird, but even then it's 3D humans with 3D Sonic. So it's not human life humans with human life Sonic. So even Sonic 06, you can't make the argument that it works well. To me, it looked a bit weird. I mean, if you want to argue that it doesn't look weird, then the argument stands that it's still 3D, so it wouldn't work well in a real-life setting. Real-life setting, you have to update the graphics of Sonic. My major concerns, not the way necessarily he looks, but the way he talks. Is he going to be kind of like the cartoon? Is it going to be kind of like the game? I want it to be like that, pretty sleek, pretty, speedy, pretty, there's cheesy catchphrases. I would like that. So the way he talks and the way he looks. But the way he looks, not necessarily the way he looks, if he's going to be human size or child size. That is a concern about me. I hope he is in proportion to humans, as in how he would look in the cartoon, as in smaller. If he's 1-for-1 human size, that to me would just blow it up. That to me alone would just kill it for me. I'd be like, no, they can't. it's just horrible. It wouldn't work, to be honest. Pardon me. But I still have hopes for this. Look, bottom line, I still have hopes for this movie. I still have great anticipation of this movie. I do generally feel like this movie is going to deliver on things that I always wanted. I always wanted to sit down in the cinema with friends and mates and family and watch a Sonic movie on screen. Is it 100% the way I wanted it to be? Absolutely not. Of course I would have wanted a full 3D movie. Of course I wanted it to be a 2D animation. Absolutely. I'm sure everybody can agree with me. Even if you're a casual or hardcore fan, that's what you want. But realistically speaking, if we want movies to be produced for our franchises, for movies, you've got to understand that the market dictates that it needs to cater to the masses, to the casuals, okay? And some would argue, well, if it does that, then it's killing their franchise. Well, that is a moral question for yourself. I mean, if that's going to kill your perception of what you want from your franchise, I mean, that's on you. I mean, me personally, I enjoy the fact that he's going to be on the screen. I enjoy when he has cameos like Wreck-It Ralph, so younger kids can recognize him. I don't want to be that guy in his 60s, 50s where, do you remember Sonic? And nobody remembers Sonic. I want everybody to know who Sonic is. Do you want people to recognize him to be the Sonic that's currently in the promotional poster? Not necessarily. But with anything, the minute a person gets invested with a character or characters or a franchise, they don't stop on the one source material, may they be movie or the one game. They want to expand the various universe, comics, merchandising, games, etc., etc. This is just a stepping stone, people. I don't think it's going to kill the franchise. If anything, I hope it doesn't. I hope it's successful to the point where they make a part 2 and you have Shadow come out or some of the other characters. I'm really hopeful. It really depends on the people. Look, if you want to support it, awesome, fantastic. I'm with you. If you don't want to support it, I mean, who am I to change your mind? I don't think this is a bad step. I mean, it's not the best step, but it's definitely not the worst. At least it's not a fat pink hippopotamus who's transgender or something. I mean, it's Sonic. He's recognizable. Is it exactly like the original? No, but it makes sense why they needed to change it. Anyway, if you watched it up to this point, thank you so much. I really appreciate you following me on my opinions. Like I said, if you disagree with anything I say, or you want to have a debate or discussion or anything, leave a comment. I'll be more than happy to basically articulate myself writing. I'll be more than happy to make more videos if this is something you guys like. But I feel it's something like we should discuss together, right? Simply saying you hate it for no reason other than the fact that it doesn't look like the original Sonic the Hedgehog. I mean, I'm not saying I'm going to question your appreciation for Sonic, but maybe you should, broaden your horizon. maybe you should sit back and think. Maybe you should sleep on it. It's if this is going to kill what you like, just by this movie, then maybe, I hate to say it, but maybe Sonic isn't for you. Maybe you should move on. Maybe this is the point where you do move on in life. As a Sonic fan, as a continuous Sonic fan, ever since the original, I'm still supportive. Not because I'm a blind fan, but because it makes sense to, if we step back and have a proper look of what they've given us so far, it's not bad. It's, if anything, it's nice. We get to see this. We get to appreciate it. Would I have one a 3D or 2D animated? Absolutely. But I'm okay with what we have. As a fan, it would be great to go to the cinema with friends and colleagues and watch it on the big screen. I mean, has this ever happened before? Absolutely not. So that's just my take. Anyway, guys, speed on, take care, and leave your thoughts if you have any. Peace.